Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about my Yakima JetStream Roof Rack. Welcome back and thanks for being here. If you've seen my Rhinorack review, then you know that I was considering getting this Yakima JetStream, and perhaps you're wondering why. The Rhinorack, I like its fit because it's a flush bar mount that pretty much ends right here, and the crossbar height is down here, so it's nice and tight to the roof. But I find myself carrying things that I need more crossbar width, and the only way to get that is to get a crossbar that will extend out beyond the edge of the roof. These are 50-inch crossbars, and I believe I can get 60 and 70, so I can get them to stick out pretty far if I want, but I don't really need that. One of the projects that I'm working on, I still have it in the works. I flashed little hints here and there, and it's going to require that I have a separate rack. It doesn't really require it, but it's a whole lot more convenient that way. So let me talk about the roof rack here. Its installation is fairly similar to the Rhinorack. Some assembly is required. The flush bar type of system, I don't know if Yakima includes it pre-assembled, but with the Rhinorack it was pre-assembled. The Yakima rack, you have to assemble the towers to the JetStream bars and then install the foot pads, and then the clips come in separately and you install all of that as well. And so Yakima includes all of the measurements you need. In fact, the bottoms of the crossbars have little measurement guides on them, and so you don't have to measure. You just move the tower over to the measurement that it says to set it at. There is a toe alignment that you can do because, believe it or not, the roof is actually canted like this. The front of the roof is wider than the back, so when she gets back here to the back, it's narrower. And these crossbars towers account for that, so you can adjust their toe. And then the angle of the front bar is adjusted as well, because the front of the roof is angled, so then that they tip the bar up so that it rides into the wind a little better. So that's something that I like more on the Yakima rack than I did on the Rhino, because it's so adjustable. And they don't leave it to you to make those adjustments. They've done all the engineering for you. So the rack is quiet. I don't think it is quite as quiet as the Rhino rack, and I think some of that has to do with it riding farther forward on the roof and perhaps being a little bit higher. But maybe it is as quiet and it just sounds different. There's a different tone to it. And so it depends on what you're carrying up here, because there are things that you can put on the roof that once you get your cargo up here, it doesn't matter. It's going to make noise anyway. So a little bit of noise out of a crossbar is not that big of a deal if what you put on the roof is just going to make its own noise. Some of the things that I like about this rack over the Rhino rack, and I hate to pick on Rhinorack, but it's what I have experience with, right? With the Rhinorack, this weather stripping here, when you go to put accessories on it, you cut out little notches in the accessory strip so that you can slide your little bar, your little T-bolts in. The Yakima rack is different. You can install the T-bolts without removing or cutting this piece here. Let me show you a T-bolt real quick. This is the T-bolt that goes in here, and let me show you. Let me see if I can show you how it works with one hand. So there's a detail of the crossbar. So to get this in, you just push down on this. You can see how it's made to push up. And so you push that down and then you slip your T-bolt in. Let's see if I can do that one-handed. Oh yeah. And so from there, you just take it and you slide it down to where you want it to go. And then and then you tighten that down to fasten your object into place. I like it. You don't have to cut these, or do you? I suppose it depends on how permanent your load is. I had these Tbolts installed for quite a while. And when I say quite a while, I'll say 2 weeks. And so in 2 weeks, outside and inside my shed, what happened was last night when I came out here to get ready for this video and I took these Tbolts out, I noticed that these permanent indentions are in the rubber. Now I don't know if they'll eventually raise back out. These probably may make some noise when the bar is unloaded. I think it's going to be sunny today. If not today, then tomorrow. And I will find out if in the heat of the sun, if these will come back out and retake their shape. And by the time I publish this video, I'll know the answer to that. So I will certainly put a note up in the upper corner to let you know. So why use the Tbolts? There are some accessories that require them because they're just too heavy. For example, a tandem bicycle mount. They are mounted in 4 points, so there would be 2 Tbolts on each crossbar to hold a tandem bicycle in place because tandems are heavy and they exert a lot of lateral force on the mounts. The mounts are heavy duty, and so that is an example. I'm sure there are other things like shovel mounts and stuff like that. I just can't think of them. But there are things that you use these Tbolts for. And then when you're done with the Tbolt, to get it out, you just take it and slide it out. Once it's out, just put the cover back in place. Now, while I have my shot here, notice I have the same key locking system installed on these, and so I have one key for all of my Yakima accessories and racks, and that is nice. And then to remove it, you simply unlock it, and then you can see it's got this little grip thing here. You just grip here and pull out and then lift up, and it comes right off. Installing the Yakima rack is very similar to the Rhinorack that I demonstrated in a previous video. Once the rack is positioned on the roof, getting everything cinched down is fairly straightforward. Yakima calls to have the front crossbar pad about 7 inches back from the edge of the windshield. I didn't find that the foot pads fit as snug against the drip rail as it does if I slide it back just another inch or so. And that position happens to be lined up perfectly on the factory bolt hole. So I did that, and then to get everything snug down, you just slip the clip into its retaining bracket. You'll see that the clip is held out away from the paint. So you tighten this first Allen here to bring the clip down to the paint, but don't tighten it. Then you use the other Allen to tighten the clip down to cinch it down, and you want to do that uniformly on both sides. So you tighten it just enough to bring the clip up to touch the paint. Then you go over to the other side, do the same thing. Then you tighten that down a little bit, come tighten down the other side a little bit, and you repeat that until everything is completely cinched down. Then you tighten until the click in the little torque wrench does its job. And then do the same thing for the first Allen. That'll snug the clip up against the paint a little better and make sure that it does not move. Once the front crossbar is properly fastened, then it's time to position and fasten the rear crossbar. So to get the position of the rear crossbar right, you just find a point on the front crossbar. I used the edge where the gasket can dip into the top of the crossbar. You measure from there to the exact same spot on the rear crossbar. Yakima calls for a 32-inch crossbar spread. So once you get that crossbar spread achieved on both sides evenly, then you just repeat the same steps on the rear crossbar to insert the tabs and then tighten everything down so that it holds properly. I will provide a bit of a long-term review after I've had the rack on the car for a little while and I've finished my other project. I'll share a little more about that later. There's bound to be something that I forgot to discuss with this rack. So ask a question if you haven't. I'll be glad to answer. And until next time, take care.